good afternoon, everybody. I am Reverend Ira Ackrey, and to my left,
Reverend Gregory Seal Livingston.
Reverend Gregory Seal Livingston, my co-host. We are here coming back at you again, as we have for the last several weeks on the All Hands on Deck show. We have a very interesting show for you today. We may have a surprise guest calling in, but we won't even make mention of that unless they call. Then it'll be a surprise. All right, thank you so much. Well, we're going to be talking about a whole lot today. We're going to be talking about Chance the Rapper. Really getting super political.
Yeah, man. Chance has come out in a song that has been on fire, or the kids say it's lit. You know, I might need security because he's demanding the resignation of Mayor Rahm Emanuel. Thank you for joining the battle, Chance.
Chance the Rapper wants Rahm Emanuel to resign,
and thereby reducing the murder rate in Chicago.
It's amazing that the most accomplished, or the most popular rap artist right now, the most popular rap artist right now is taking such a broad stance, courageous stance, such a political stance.
I mean, he's worked side by side with Rahm, his dad did, but I think they found out, what people find out when they work with Rahm, that you're dealing with someone who doesn't have a heart, and when you don't have a heart, you can't be trusted, and when you're just pure political beast, he found out, and he made some music, and if you listen to the cut on YouTube, he starts it off with some strong language, because that's how Rahm makes him feel.
It's amazing to me, and I'm not a fan of Rahm Emanuel's at all. I have not called for his resignation, although I think it's horrible. The reason I haven't called for his resignation is because, me personally, everybody has their role to play. I have not called for his resignation because I know this guy is not going to do it. So but I do appreciate people who are out there holding out hope and just laying it on the line and talking about all the poor ways in which he has served our community.
Well, we've been calling for Rahn's resignation since 2015, the Laquan McDonald situation, the cover-up with the execution by police officer Jason Van Dyke. We had hashtag Black Friday after Thanksgiving, hashtag Black Christmas on Christmas Eve. We hit Michigan Avenue. We've been clogging the thoroughfares for a while. And Rahm is a hard one to beat because he's put together a formidable package. He and his brothers, Ari on the West Coast,
sure,
Ezekiel on the East Coast, have created a Machiavellian empire. But kingdoms do fall, Reverend Ackrey, and it's only impossible until somebody does it.
Now, we've talked over and over as faith leaders about how powerful words are and the lyrics of songs, how they influence people.
Yes, sir.
We have demanded that rap artists and gangster rap artists would stop using the N-word, stop calling the ladies B's and H's and all of that, because we feel it's toxic and it has a negative effect on people's behavior. Do you suspect this resignation call in the form of music will affect any of the young people? Because there are a whole lot of old people, no matter how Rahm treats us, they still side with Rahm Emanuel. They talk about how terrible things are. They talk about how we need resources. They talk about how we need sensible gun legislation. But then they still holding arms and in love with Rahm Emanuel. But these young people don't see it that way.
Because some people are living in the past. Rahm is a Pharaoh who knew not Joseph. So he is the one that says, build this stuff. You know, he gives you bricks without straw, to make bricks without straw, to use the biblical language. The young people of this generation, they're not connected to the civil rights struggle. They're not connected to some of the giant figures, you know, historically. And so what they see here is a man who is basically trying to truncate, restrict, constrict their freedom of individuality by closing their schools, by taking out their music programs and their art programs, these things that culture the spirit. And then, of course, the cover-up of Laquan McDonald's murder to win an election is probably the lowest and basest and most diabolical thing that someone with the title of mayor could do.
And so you really believe this song is going to help shape people's attitudes that are not politically connected, who may not watch the news at night and read the newspapers? Do you think this will really help direct them?
It could be the we shall overcome of the 21st century. You know, Rahm got to resign, and the song is in the language of our youth, and this is how they talk and communicate. I understand that, and so, you know, I'm sure Rahm is concerned too. He got on TV and he cried, but the tears he cried were bloody because he wiped them with his hand, and he has the blood of Laquan McDonald on his hands.
312-738-1060. You're on the air with Reverend Ira Ackley and Reverend Gregory Seal Livingston. He's been out on the point today. Today, you had a press conference?
Yes, sir.
In front of Wrigley Field.
Yes, sir.
And you made a major announcement.
Yes, sir.
And I want you to tell us about that announcement after we take our caller. Caller, be brief, but make your call, make your claim. Welcome to the show.
Yes, sir. My name's Ray. I call every once in a while. But you know what gets me? People get up on TV and talk and talk and talk, and nothing ever changes. And you know why it doesn't change? Because from the top in Chicago, they don't care from the top to the bottom. The mayor don't care. If the mayor cared, this could have stopped when he first got in. The aldermen don't care because nothing has changed in 20 years.
All right.
You got to get the people out of there and stop putting people that care about people in office. Thank you.
Thank you for your call. He said we got a lot of politicians in office who don't care about the people. We got another caller. Caller, welcome to the show. You're on the show with Reverend Ira Ackley and Gregory Seal Livingston. All hands on deck.
Yes, thank you for taking my call. I'm going to make a couple of points. One, I think it's important to note that there is this question as to whether or not Rahm Emanuel actually knew the content of the tape. If he had half the intellect that people suppose he had, the smart thing would have been to do is to say, I don't want to be anywhere near that tape. I don't want to know what's on it, and thereby being able to divest yourself of responsibility for what happened at that scene that night. Now, I suspect strongly that is probably what he did, because he would have been an idiot to actually view the tape and therefore being held accountable down the road. That doesn't excuse the fact that he suppressed that tape. I'm quite sure he did. But at the same time, we have a lot of leaders in the African-American community and the community in general who are aldermen, who were commissioners, who were political leaders in the city, who nonetheless endorsed Rahm Emanuel in that subsequent election.
That's exactly right.
Knowing full well that he probably knew what was on the tape, despite the fact that he, again, if he was smart, didn't view that tape on his own. And lastly, this notion about a rapper and his song, somehow impacting this. Unfortunately, that's not the demographic that votes. The people who listen to Chance the Rapper are not the people who tend to turn out. We have a terrible turnout in Chicago.
That point is well taken, sir. Thank you for calling. Reverend Livingston, he said, people are getting excited about Chance the Rapper calling out Rahm Emanuel for this guy creating a tale of two cities, but those young people don't vote.
The truth of the matter is, and I agree with you, caller, they don't vote, but guess what? They do get out into the streets, and they make people afraid, and they get out into the right streets. To get out on Woodlawn, to get out in Lawndale, to get out in Inglewood, everybody see them every day. But when them young people go down on Michigan Avenue, when they go up north to get in the streets, let me tell you something, fear abounds. Fear abounds because black people are still viewed in a negative fashion by people who don't want us living in their neighborhoods. We could have a couple of us living here and there, but it's time for us to push forward. Martin King's dream for me is still alive, but we have to push forward now, step up, and guess what? There's no such thing as an unbloody birth. And what I mean by that is there's pain, there's labor, and it's messy, and it's hard work. And that's the only way we're going to get to the next level. I'm not asking anybody to respect us. You're going to have to respect us because we have earned who we are, and we do, and there's nothing you can do about it.
A couple weeks ago, Father Michael Flager organized a march, and they shut down the Dan Ryan. And the purpose of his march was to call attention to the violence in Chicago. There was no direct demand, simply to call attention to the violence in Chicago on the South Side. And later on, he said he wanted to have a meeting with the young people of our city. He didn't want any adults, but young people, because he said, I remember him saying that some of the older people have so much baggage. Okay, well, anyway, I didn't appreciate those
Sure.
comments because he's older than I am.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
that's right.
All right, but
Me
anyhow,
too.
Right, but anyhow, but I appreciate the fact that he wanted to do something, and appreciate the fact that he didn't mind showing leadership and use the influence that he has on so many people to do something positive. People will follow him; they will not follow you or I.
Yes.
And so I appreciate that. Now, and I also think that he laid the foundation for the march that you guys have started pushing and promoting and actually announced today. Tell us about what happened
Yes,
in
sir.
front of Wrigley Field
That's
today,
right.
Reverend Livingston.
Hey, Jack Brickhouse said, holy cow, Harry
yeah.
Carey. Thank you, Reverend Ackery. And, today's announcement at Wrigley Field, and we're thankful to Father Flager, to Pastor Flager, and to everyone that has been battling this battle. And really, for me, the violence is transgenerational. It transcends age, it transcends race, it transcends all those things, because black on black violence, blue on black violence,
Sure.
all of it is something that we want to put an end to.
That's right.
And so, we said, you know what, we have to redistribute the pain. And what that means is we feel there are citizens in our city who don't know some of the suffering that some of the other citizens are going through. So we, like Dr. King, when he was here, Dr. King went to Marquette Park, where blacks were not allowed to live, and marched through Marquette Park, and they came out and called him everything but a child of God, hit him in the head with bottles and bricks. Then he marched through Cicero, Illinois. Remember the places that he marched through, the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Alabama, Birmingham. These were not places where people will be friendly to him. And so our idea is, we need to go to Wrigleyville. Take Southsiders, Westsiders to Wrigleyville. Let's show South and Westsiders what a well-funded neighborhood looks like when the resources are allocated fairly. Let's show them what a police department, a public safety arm looks like when it operates optimally, and the police treat you right. They say hello. They say nice things to you. They ask you nice questions. Dr. Acker, we were catalyzed by the Harith Augustus death. Because again, if Aretha Augustus, as we discussed last week, if he didn't have conceal and carry, that's a bad thing. He broke the law.
Sure.
But the thing is that we know for...
I often say with
Yes.
Harith Augustus that he's not the perfect martyr. You
No.
would love for him to be Betty Jones, who opened the door to help the police. But then again, Betty Jones still dead.
That's right. That's right.
So even perfect martyrs, don't get any vindication.
They're perfectly dead.
She's still dead.
Yes.
And all he said was, Officer Riamo, oops, I'm sorry. And
But let me say this. So our march, what it's doing is this.
Sure.
We're doing it in the Kingsian fashion, like Gandhi, like Jesus, is that it's during the week, it's during rush hour, it's on Lakeshore Drive, it's during a Cubs game, and Lollapalooza. What that means is we are going to disrupt the city and those with money or the better off, because people in neglected and challenged neighborhoods are not heard their cries and complaints. But people in better off neighborhoods, their cries and complaints are attended to. And so we have to go where people listen to cries and complaints, and maybe they'll confuse us with the Wrigleyvillians or whatever you want to call them. And so, but that's August 2nd, Thursday, 4 o'clock at the Belmont northbound Lakeshore entrance on the east side of Lakeshore Drive. We will gather there and we will march for Laquan McDonald. We will march for Betty Jones. We will march for Quintonio LeGrier. We will march for more education, better funding, more jobs. We will march for better public safety. We will march for having incubators where these young geniuses who don't have access to things that some other folk have will finally have access to these. And all of a sudden, Lawndale, Austin, Inglewood will become little Indias, because now we have digital training centers in these neighborhoods funded by companies companies like Google and Amazon, and we find ways because the genius is in our communities, but it's time to take the chains off of our people, and it seems like we can't ask anybody to free us. We got to free ourselves.
Man, you sound like you are fired up for change in this city, and you have no patience for the administration of Rahm Emanuel.
Man, I might need security.
You listen, you sound like Chance the Rapper. Listen, we got a caller. Caller, welcome to the show. You're on All Hands on Deck.
Yes, I just wanted to question the notion of doing this in Wrigleyville, given that what we know about demographics in terms of Cubs games. The majority of people who go to an average Cubs game are from the suburbs. They're not people in the city of Chicago. They don't vote here. So disrupting their lives can't impact the causes that we're talking about in many ways. Are there better places to be? 95% of people who go to Lollapalooza are not Chicagoans. And in Wrigleyville...
Well, let me just interrupt you, but what it does, it interrupts the economy of people who live here. So it causes disruption. It causes discomfort. I mean, I know he can answer that himself, but I thought that was an easy one, even though it's not my march.
Because when we did hashtag
Thank you for calling.
Black Christmas on Michigan Avenue on Christmas Eve, we knocked down the revenue that big day for them by over 50%. You see, so that's why they're taking this march seriously, because we did resign Rahm 3 years ago. We didn't just start this. We've been on this, but the difference is when the media gives you the kind of constant attention being a black leader in Chicago.
The powers to be don't pay you any attention unless it impacts them economically or you take your voice to the polls.
Yes, sir.
Vote. Caller, welcome to the show. It's hot, it's hot, it's hot. State your claim. The phone calls are lit up real quick. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. This is Amara calling in. How are you?
Hello there. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Enjoying the show.
Now, this is Dr. Amara Enya. All right.
What up, young lady?
Listen, we're so excited about the work that you're doing on gentrification. And you made a fabulous presentation at the Leaders Network last month at the last meeting, and we're looking forward to you coaching us and holding our hand as we try to resist some of this gentrification that's going on the west side of Chicago. Thank you. Can you give us a highlight of what you tried to convey to that I call it a hybrid audience?
Sure. No, it's an excellent audience. And so what we were talking about as it relates to gentrification was just the number of fronts that we have to be paying attention to. One is making sure that we're getting the investment that we are entitled to in our communities, and that's the economic investment. That means investing in local businesses, investing in economic infrastructure, investing in startups, that we're entitled to by virtue of being taxpayers in the city of Chicago. So that's one.
Sure.
The other is making sure that we have the tools, that we're creative about the kind of tools that actually are catalysts for economic investment and economic growth. That means we can't rely on this whole one-size-fits-all model, because what works in Lincoln Park it may not necessarily work in Austin. And so we have to push the city to tailor tools that are actually relevant to what we need. The third is this issue of ownership of our homes, ownership of the land, ownership of our businesses. And so the example that I used was we have a vacant school in Austin that has been vacant for a number of years. That
vacant school, Key Elementary.
Yes, the Key building. Yeah, beautiful building, been vacant, and it was earmarked to be part of a larger scale economic development project, an arts and culture campus that has significant implications. However, a private school from Oak Park came in to the Austin community with very little dialogue, very little transparency, knew that this plan, this economic development plan, community-driven plan, was already in play, and yet still they went straight to CPS, bypassed all protocols, went straight to CPS to buy the building, and then after the fact attempted to say that they wanted to build partnerships in the community. Well, gentrification is largely about displacement. It's about ignoring the voices of those who live in a community. It's about other people being able to come in and determine what happens in a community. And that's precisely what happened in this case.
And I want to say something, Dr. Amara Enya, by the way, Enya, everybody that's listening by way of Facebook Live, and there's so many of you that have tuned in today, but also to our audience, Dr. Amara Enya is she's from Austin Chambers of Commerce, and she's the executive director, and she's doing great work. And I just want to tell you, we appreciate you standing up and joining arms with the Leaders Network and other concerned citizens on the West Side, because it seems like they just came and just in the middle of the night and just snatched up a campus. And it's gentrification done in the so-called name of Jesus. I mean, because this is so unfortunate. And we really appreciate you leading this fight, and we're going to do all that we can to make sure that we get this building back, or there's going to be hell to pay otherwise.
Yes, and I'm thankful for folks like yourself, Reverend Hatch, and others in the Leaders Network, and just in the community that have spoken up on this and that are looking to really fight to maintain community-centered development and to exemplify that.
Well, what we want to do is we want to make sure that we can get you in here for a whole 30 minutes, but I just wanted you to say something today, because we got to keep this message alive, because we cannot allow gentrification. We just can't lay down and allow gentrification to just happen on our watch without resisting or fighting back. So thank you so much, and please, as you talk with my producer, please give her a time that you can come on and be in the studio with me and Reverend Livingston.
Yes, definitely. I would love to, and I appreciate you.
Take care, Mara.
Thank you.
All right.
All right. Those of you that are watching via Facebook Live, you're asking what channel? Cable Access Network, Channel 21. Channel 21. Phones are lit up, but you can still call if you can get in. The number is 312-738-1060. Talking about Chance the Rapper. We're talking about Rahm Emanuel. Chance's call for his resignation in the form of lyrics. Reverend, I almost call you Jesse, Reverend Gregory Livingston and T.O. Hardiman.
T.O. Hardiman, Violence Interrupters. Yes, sir.
They call for his resignation, and there's going to be a march. They call it the LSD.
That's right.
Shutdown.
And march to Wrigley
August the 2nd. How can people participate?
Well, you know,
how can they help plan it?
Sure. Well, you know what? You can go on Facebook. Got a couple of websites, a couple of Facebook pages. One is Buy Rahm 2019, BYERAHM 2019. The other is Coalition for a New Chicago. You can go on Twitter. You can reach at T.O. Hardiman, at TIOHARDIMAN, or at Gregory Livingston. That's at GS Livingston. You can reach us through social media 24/7, you know, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can, because it's amazing that, you know, I'm not as old as Reverend Ackery, but we're really learning the.
I just look like this.
You know, the power of social media to make this happen, and so you know, we're just excited that we can get some young people from Lollapalooza that believe in the cause of justice and making a difference, and. You know, it's something. And believe me, the powers that be are nervous. Reverend Ackery knows how this works. But we just have to keep on pressing, keep fighting, no matter what. Because I've learned more from my failures than I've learned from not trying.
Now, you made a point about Rahm Emanuel. He's the head. But you're also coming after Superintendent Eddie Johnson. What are some of the reasons that he must go?
Well, Superintendent Eddie Johnson said that he never had seen discrimination in the Chicago Police Department, right. But he actually sent people to racial sensitivity training.
Sure.
So he was illegitimately hired. I mean, we had 3 rigorously vetted candidates from a national search. Great candidates, and thousands of dollars of taxpayers' money was flushed down the toilet because Rahm Emanuel didn't like these persons because they were not yes men or yes women.
They were real reformers.
Real reformers, and so he suspended the law. This is Chicago corruption at its best.
Sure.
He suspended the law, had City Council suspend the law for 1 day so they could approve his candidate. Then, you know, the Rialmo case, there it is, that COPA, and Reverend Ackery speaks so eloquently about this. Eddie Johnson promised us transparency. We have COPA, and then when COPA renders a decision about the Robert Rialmo shooting of Quintonio and Betty was unjustified, a bad shoot, he goes the other direction because he collapse to the pressure of the FOP and everything else that's involved with that kind of decision.
Let me just jump in.
Yes, sir.
I love making this case. The
Come on,
bottom
make
line
it.
is, after this last shooting that took place, Augustus, he shows the video where people could see a young man grabbing for something on his waist. So the masses of the people have concluded that it's probably justifiable. Well, number one, we already know it's going to be justifiable because the threshold of justice with the CPD is very low anyway.
Say it, doctor.
This innocent woman, Miss Betty Jones, who was just helping the police, got her brains blown out. And when COPA decided to say that it was an unjustifiable shooting and said he should be fired, Superintendent Johnson rejected their findings. You can't come a couple months later and say, well, we're putting the ball in COPA's court. Eddie Johnson, you are being very non-transparent. Shame on you.
And Dr. Ackery, T.O. Hardeman knows over violence interrupters. He has a lot of expertise in some of these areas. And one of the things he said about Mr.
10 seconds, we got to roll.
Okay, Gus, is weapon retention.
Yeah.
You feel it coming out, you try to keep your weapon in when you're moving.
All right. God bless you. Thank you. August 2nd, it's going to be shut down. Take care. God bless you.
God bless you.
Coming back next week, 4:30, 2 o'clock, Tuesday evening.